Welcome back to another episode of Rob Sports Center. As you can see by the title and by the thumbnail, today we're going to be breaking down some film on Nico Collins. Man, I know I'm sorry, man, on some of these videos that we can't get the angles that we would necessarily like. I just try to do the best with what I can get. That's why I try to be very descriptive in terms of me explaining exactly what's happening play to play. So let's get straight into this game, man. So the very first play, man, you got a 1st and 10. You got Nico Collins who's lined up exactly on the numbers. He's not lined up outside. He's not lined up inside. He's lined up exactly on the numbers. He's in a much tighter form, a much tighter split. Obviously, you know, when we talk about tight splits, we talk about his proximity to the offensive line, right? So most of the time, from a DB standpoint, you gotta kind of analyze and say, okay, if he's lined up in a tight split, what is he trying to do? What is the goal? More times than not, when they line up in tighter splits, it's going to be outbreaking routes. Now, granted, like I say, you do have situations where if it's a mesh, they kind of got guys lined up close to try to create pick routes, to try to create rub routes, to try to, just create that separation. Sometimes it is to try to create mismatches in terms of the defense having to kind of communicate. So right here, he just releases vertically, and obviously it's a 1st and 10. So it kind of tells you too that they have freedom in the sense of what they can do. It's not necessarily a gotta have it, because even if they didn't get this on 1st down, they still got 2nd down, they still got 3rd down. So they just pretty much send Nico Collins on a vertical stem all the way down the field. CJ Stroud just lobs it up there. And allows him to go up there and just be a playmaker. Idealistically, you probably wouldn't want to throw that ball just because you got two guys that's double covering him. I'm not quite sure if they were doubling him or what, or was one guy the safety, the single high safety, just read CJ Stroud eyes and saw where he was trying to go to that one-on-one matchup. But nevertheless, it was still a phenomenal catch on Nico Collins' part. When you got a guy that can go up and make these type of catches, it erases potential bad plays for quarterbacks and offenses. So right here, we got to have a situation. We got Nico Collins lined up on the boundary side in a one-on-one matchup. Boundary side means the short side of the field. You see that it's only one receiver over here. You see it's 3 receivers on the opposite side. And you see all the room that they got to operate over there. So that's the difference between the field and the boundary side. So you get a one-on-one matchup. He just gives Nico Collins a free release, and this is just catch and throw right here. This is almost like running routes on air. The cornerback really didn't give any resistance there. He gave him a free release inside. CJ Stroud did a good job of just putting the ball on the money, putting the ball right there between the 1 and the 2, and allowing Nico Collins to be able to try to pick up some more yards after the catch. You see that by him being as big and physical as he is, he's also able to drag the defender for some additional yards after making the catch. Now, this is an aspect of a receiver that I think that we need to kind of start giving a little bit more credit to and a little bit more focus on, because we always look at the guys that can blow tops off the defense, which is phenomenal. I get that. But at some point, you're going to have to be able to attack underneath, because guess what? If you got a receiver who has that type of speed, more teams are going to play in 2 high shells to take away the vertical routes, right? To take away that level of effectiveness. Now, can you adapt to what the defense is doing? So if they're going to give us those deep shots, yeah, we're going to take them. But if they're not going to give us any deep shots, I need a guy who's willing to go underneath and go across the middle and make those tough, hard catches in order to put us in a better position to win a football game. So right here, we got a 1st and 10. You got Nico Collins lined up in the slot. Once again, he's matched up in a one-on-one matchup. And like I said, man, sometimes you need that guy that big body guy, that physical guy who can go across the middle and get those tough yards. So you see they have a one-on-one matchup in the slot. He kind of does the little Devontae Adams little hot step where he kind of scooches off the line. And it kind of gets the DB wondering, okay, where is he going to go? And granted, too, this is another benefit from lining up in the slot, because when you line up in the slot, now you have a 2-way go, because you don't have no limitations, meaning that if you lined up outside the numbers, the out of bounds is a limitation on what you can do. So it's only so many routes that you can run. But when you get in the slot, now you have more field to work with. So now it's so much more, and it makes it that much harder for a defender, but then it makes it much more better for an offensive guy, because now you have more options of what you can do. And even when you're selling your releases now, because good corners, they're going to pay attention to the down and distance in a situation, right? So if they know that based off of where you aligned, these routes are not really possible, they're not going to go on those fakes, because they know that you're not going to do that. But right here, where you can go outside and you can go inside, it keeps the DB on his toes. The DB gives him a free release pretty much, and Nico Collins just runs the inside slant. And I mean, it really wasn't any friction or resistance from the defensive end, from the DB standpoint. It's kind of like I said early on the earlier clip. It just was a simple catch and run, or a catch and throw. All right, so you got this route right here. You got it on red area possession. You got Nico Collins once again, who's lined up right on the numbers. Like I said, he's lined up in a much tighter split to possibly give him a two-way go if they were going to take it. You see that the Bears are in a zone defense. Right here, you see at the point of attack at the line of scrimmage, both guys are active with their hands. Obviously, they call hands on the face to number 29 when he went to kind of jam Nico Collins to try to slow down the timing of the route. But Nico Collins had those active hands as well to try to knock his hands out the way and to try to minimize him being able to slow him down. And he kind of just releases inside, runs another slant route. Like I said, especially when you get in the red area, and that goes back to what I was saying too in terms of one of the things we need to look at when we're looking at receivers are not just can you blow the top off the defense, but can you maneuver and can you operate inside the numbers? Because guess what? If you are a receiver that really can only attack the field vertically, now there's needs for that within the offense, but there's also limitations, meaning that as the field gets much smaller, the effectiveness of the over-the-top speed now becomes null and void, because now guess what? You got the back of the end zone that you have to work with, right? So now when we get in the red area and things are much more compressed, now you have to be able to operate in those tight spaces. And having a receiver like this, it gives you a level of confidence when you get down there to know that, okay, we got guys that we're confident that we can win those matchups depending on how they play us, whether it be zone or whether it be man. And he just runs a slant here, just goes across the middle, is able to run through this tackle right there, run through that arm tackle, and is able to just drag number one into the end zone with him. So right here, we have one of those off script second play better than the first type plays right here. So originally, Nico Collins ended up running a slant. Now, what happened was the pressure got to CJ Stroud, so he had to roll out on this play. So when he rolled out, obviously Nico Collins was aware and he rerouted himself and ran towards the sideline. So it was almost like he ran a slant an out route, kind of like a zigzag route, but it was just basically him rerouting himself to try to give CJ Stroud a throwing lane. And CJ Stroud did a good job at being able to throw this ball under duress on the run to give Nico Collins a shot at being able to make a tough sideline catch. Now, it goes back into what I was saying. So another category we need to look at when we're evaluating receivers as well is not just the ability to get the tough yards going across the middle, but then being able to make tough catches. Now, that's the thing about, once again, when we talk about receivers that can only really just blow the top off of a defense, whenever it comes to having to adjust to make those tough catches, are you able to do that too? And that's what I mean about not just being one dimensional. Like we've seen so far, we've seen the explosiveness downfield from Nico Collins, right? We've seen the ability to get the tough yards and to maneuver in the red area. And we've seen the ability to be able to make tough catches just like this one right here. And that's what I mean when I say you don't want to be one dimensional. You want to be a receiver that can contribute in multiple aspects, because it makes it that much hard for defense to have to deal with you. But he just does a phenomenal job at initially trying to catch it with his left hand, slowed down the momentum of it, and was able to kind of just be able to catch it for a second time and secure the catch, get both feet in before he goes out of bounds. So that just was phenomenal body control and phenomenal focus and ball skills to make that catch. So right here you see they just run a little simple, look like it might have been like a little look route where he just takes one step and they get the ball to him and he just makes some yards after the catch. So it goes back to that, what can you do on your own, right? So what I mean by that is when things don't go idealistically in terms of the play, like when you see quarterbacks having to maneuver out the pocket and receivers having to reroute themselves, and just the quarterbacks being able to get the ball off when the pass protection failed, and the receivers just being able to reroute themselves and give the quarterback a lane to throw to. That's what I mean about what can you do by yourself. So in this case for Nico Collins, we're just running this little simple one-step route, get the ball to him. What can you do in terms of, can you make guys miss, and can you just eat up some yards? And he does a good job at that. It makes that guy right there miss. See this guy come and makes him miss, just running through arm tackles and just being able to maximize on the opportunities gained. Sometimes as an offense, you have to be able to just take what the defense gives you. So if the defense is taking away deep routes, if they're taking away the intermediate routes, then we have to find a way to be able to hurt them underneath. And then if we can effectively hurt them underneath, now it makes them have to become a little bit more balanced with how they play us, and it gives us just more opportunities as a whole. All right, so we got another red area possession right here. You gotta have a situation of 3rd and goal. Now, y'all all know how the importance I place on the red area. I always say that every snap that takes place in the red area is a gotta have it, no matter the down and distance, no matter if it's 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down, or 4th down. Those are all gotta have it situations. So you got Nico Collins matched up in the slot, one-on-one with a corner. So it looks like a lot of what I've seen in terms of his damage that he does is more so inside the numbers. Even that vertically attacking route he had early on, it was still somewhat inside the numbers. So that looks like where he does the fair share of his damages in the middle of the field, which is very beneficial, especially when you get into the red area. But once again, like when we talk about, okay, how do you win that one-on-one matchup? So you look at the corner. If I'm trying to go inside, right, I'm going to have to attack the corner's outside shoulder. That's the only way that I can get him to give up the leverage in terms of positioning, like how he does right here. He releases off the line of scrimmage. He attacks the outside shoulder, gives him a move outside. Boom. The corner just slightly slides over, and it's just an easy lane after that. Now, like I said, it goes back until I'm not quite sure if I covered this in this video or the previous video where I talked about a lot of receivers, especially young receivers, I think they get so stuck on, oh, I got to make him look bad, I got to make him fall, and things of that nature. And it's not necessarily the case, man. All you have to do is try to make him just give up slight leverage and slight positioning, and you can capitalize off of it, just like how he did right here. So right here, we got Nico Collins. He's lined up inside the numbers again. Like I said, this is where he do majority of his damage from, based off what I've seen so far from watching film on him. Obviously, like I said, even his vertical damage that he does is done from inside the numbers. So right here, I'm not quite sure if it was just a blown coverage or it just was poor communication or no communication that led to this. Nico Collins just pretty much ran straight up the field. He got a free release, and it was pretty much just like it was pretty much like running routes on air. You know, like the pregame when you getting ready to warm up. That's exactly what it looked like, because it was just get vertical. Nobody was back there to contest. CJ Stroud just put the ball on the money. He was able to run underneath it and just walk in for an easy touchdown. So right here, man, we got Nico Collins lined up outside the numbers. So, you know, so far what we've seen, a lot of his damage that we've seen him do has been inside the numbers, whether it be slants, drags, out routes and things like that. Out routes when he was lined up inside the numbers, but he still went out. But that's where most of his damage kind of occurred. Now, we have seen him get vertical from inside too, kind of like those vertical vertical seam routes up the middle. Right here, we actually have him lined up on the outside. One-on-one, the corner kind of looked a little shook. You know, he just looked a little uneasy looking at the situation that it being 1st and 10. They probably knew that they had an inexperienced corner, and they looking at the alignment of the defense and saying, man, if they gonna give us this one-on-one matchup on 1st down, then we're going to take it. And they end up capitalizing on it. Nico Collins pretty much just dominated this route from the beginning to the end. I mean, when you look at it right here, look at the release, he kind of was looking like he was going to be stemming inside, but he did a good job at being able to stack him and getting back outside the numbers. If CJ Stroud puts that ball out there just a tad bit more, that's an easy walk-in touchdown for him. So I see the Texans like to line up in a lot of compressed formations, a lot of tight formations. Like I said, and there's some numerous amount of reasons of why you can do that. A lot of it can be to, cause pick routes, rub routes. Some of it could be to make the defense have to communicate to say, okay, I got this guy right here. If they don't do that, then it can end up with mismatches. So right here, he doesn't really get too fancy with his release. Honestly, he just does like the little hop step and then just goes inside, right? Based off of leverage, he kind of based off his leverage and his hand fighting, he already had the inside took from the corner. And he just did a good job when he kind of had him in a trail position. Like notice that right here, he kind of uses his outside shoulder to fake as if he was going to be going outside, and then just kind of bounces back inside, which caused the corner to lose his footing. And he eventually fell, and then Nico Collins was just wide open after that. So right here, we got a red area possession. We got another scramble drill. Like I always say, man, I always stress the importance of red area. When you get down here, man, you want to score points. Every possession down, every play down here, 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down, 4th down is a got to have it. So right here, they just pretty much operate another scramble drill. So another measurement that I look at when it comes to receivers are the same as we say about quarterbacks. Can you make your second play better than the first play? Meaning, right? So sometimes the first play, you might initially be open, or it might have been a window where you may have became open, right? But the pass rush might got there, or for whatever reason, the quarterback decides he wants to try to buy time to either run the ball or to allow something to develop similar to like right here. And we seen Nico Collins do that on a play early on, and he also did it on another play that I just didn't put in here. But right here, that's pretty much what he does. He looks at CJ Stroud. He realizes that CJ Stroud is scrambling and extending the play, and he just never stops working. So he works all the way from one side of the field, from just running a slant, and then just kind of drags it on across the field, works back down towards the pylon. CJ Stroud finds him, boom, for an easy catch, throw and catch for a touchdown. So right here, we got another gotta have a situation. You got a 3rd and 6. You got Nico Collins lined up right on top of the numbers. He's matched up on the outside with number 2, and he just beats him from the beginning towards the end as well. I had to throw that part in there too, the end where he threw in the little stiff arm. You know, I had to just showcase the physicality because he is a pretty physical, big body receiver. So basically, like I always say, man, if the younger receivers are watching this, I always talk about, you know, the release when it comes to route running. And I noticed that a lot of guys, the younger guys more so specifically, they think that movement is a release, meaning that just moving in one spot is the release. No, moving forward and closing the distance, attacking the distance and the space between you and the corner is what creates elite level releases. That's why you don't necessarily have to be the quickest or the fastest. You just have to be able to attack the distance, attack the leverage, and that's what makes them, you know, either get out of position, whether they open up their hips or whatever the case may be. So right here, he does a good job at that. He pretty much kind of just runs. It's almost like he runs like somewhat of it's like a stop and go type route, kind of similar to like maybe a fade when you look at the way he released for it. So you look at it, he attacked the outside shoulder right here, boom. So it's almost like he really kind of did 2 releases. So look at where he's lined up in terms of being on top of the numbers, right? It's not necessarily outside the numbers, and look at where he releases to. So when he releases there, he's somewhat slightly inside the numbers, right? So now it creates room for him to be able to kind of go on the out breaking route. So it looks like he really kind of ran a corner route opposed to a fade or a stop and go. I think honestly the release, it was all just to kind of get the corner slightly out of position to create that room going towards the sideline for the corner route. And he does just that. Like I said, just pretty much beats the corner from the beginning of the route all the way to the end. And then I had to throw the level because I love physical football. So I had to throw the physicality in there with him just throwing a stiff arm on number 21. Get off me, son. And just, threw him out of bounds. So we got another guy to have a situation right here. You got Nico Collins matched up on the outside, on the boundary side, which is the short side of the field. And like I say, well, that's another measurement we look at when we're looking at a number one receiver, I would say. So if anything, he kind of was thrusted into that role more so with the injury to Stephon Diggs and then the injury to Tank Dell. So he was that number one guy by default, but I do think he performed up to it. But my thing is when I'm looking at that, can you win those one-on-one matchups on the boundary side whenever we get them? And he does, and he can, as we see here. And this was one of those plays to where it wasn't nothing extravagant. He ran a fade route, obviously working against the sideline. You didn't really have too much room to work. The corner did a good job at just being able to stay over the top of him. But this is one of those things that is very hard to defend. When you got a quarterback and a receiver that's in sync and they know what the other guy is doing and expecting, because they practice this play over and over and over and over and over until it's just almost like reaction at that point, is very hard to stop that. But Nico Collins is one of those guys to where if all else fails, if the coverage is good initially or the coverage is good up until the catch, up until me throwing the ball, as long as I put it in a position what we consider would be a 50-50 ball, more times than not, I'm confident, regardless if he having to work against the sideline or not, that he's going to come up with that ball. And he does just that right here on this play. All right, so we got a gotta have a situation right here, another gotta have a situation. So what has been my new thing that I've been telling my young receivers? At first, you always heard me stressing about whenever you're doing your releases, don't just make moves in one spot, move vertically, close the distance when you're making your moves. But also something else that I've been saying a lot, I just got this from Michael Irvin, is use your hands for more than just catching the football. What does he mean by that? So when you're matched up a lot of times in one-on-one situations, press man coverage, corners are going to try to get their hands on you, especially physical corners, to try to slow down the timing, because everything offense based is timing. So the corners are going to try to challenge you at the line with getting physical to slow down the timing of the route, especially if they have a darn good pass rush. So you have to get good at utilizing your hands to be able to knock down the DB's hands, kind of similar to the battle between offensive linemen and defensive linemen with hand placement and things right there. So right here you see Nico Collins, and this wasn't a push off because this was within 5 yards. He just gets very physical with him at the line. Boom, like he just bull rushes him pretty much, right? He ain't even really do no release. He didn't even do no specific type of move. He just came forward and boom, pushed him off balance and was wide open going across the middle for the slant to be able to get the conversion on 3rd and 2. And then I like the fact that he showed good strength ball control, just being able to hold on to it, keep it high and tight right here with number 21 trying to yank the ball out. Like Coach Belichick always says, ball security is job security. Every time that football hits your hand, you have to understand that when you have to have that ball at the end of every play, because the fate of the organization in a sense is on your hands. And that is the case, because turning over the ball in key situations, or even just turning over the ball period, can hurt you in more ways than not. And a lot of times that can be a deciding factor in you winning or losing football games. But like I say, man, I like Nico Collins. Like I say, most of his work that he does is kind of in the middle like this. It's like either it's going to be in the middle and you see him having things going outwards towards the sideline from time to time too. And then from time to time, you will see him releasing vertically from seams, whether it be out of the slot position or whether it just be a compressed formation to where it's just him and you got the tight end in the backfield. So the Houston Texans ran a various of different formations. And I like that because it takes away from the ability to teams to be able to double team a lot of times, because first we have to locate where he's at, and now we have to go based off of that. And if we're having problems locating where he's at play after play, it's kind of hard to really key in on him and those guys that have a situation similar to this, because we just don't know where he's going to line up at. He might even be lined up in the backfield. So they do a good job at utilizing him and moving him around the formation to get him to be able to, get him opportunities for the ball. And like I say, he does it in a numerous amount of ways. We've seen him do it on wide receiver screens. He's phenomenal with the ball in his hands, whether that be him making guys miss or that just be him being able to drag defenders forward for extra yards to maximize on the yards gained from a particular play. But I'm interested to see how things play out with him this year. I know Stephon Diggs is gone. I'm not quite sure the time frame with Tank Dell. Is he going to be back immediately? So I'm kind of curious to see how that situation is going to go out. But if you guys did enjoy this video, do me a big favor, smash that thumbs up button. Also, if you're new to the channel, man, make sure you subscribe. When you subscribe, make sure that you click that notification bell where you be notified every time I upload. And by the way, too, man, if you enjoyed these type of videos, these player breakdowns and things like that, I got several of these videos on my channel. The playlist is titled Rob Evaluations, man. You can go check them out. I've done them from the NFL and I've also done them at the high school level. So if you love the X's and O's of football and the deep dives like I do here, man, I got plenty more. And if you're new to the channel, man, welcome to the channel. Like I said, make sure you got that notification bell on. That way you be notified every time I upload. And I'll see y'all in the next video.